Jackie, and I am the board chair for Intermediate District 287. Excited to call to order our general meeting of the school board this evening. As always, we will begin with the reading of the mission statement to ground our work together tonight. And this evening, board member Shannon Andreessen is going to start us off.
Thank you, Chair Barecki. The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students.
Thank you. And will you also start the board member introductions tonight?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Andreessen, proudly representing Hopkins Public Schools.
My name is Michael Romicall. I'm representing Minnetonka School District.
Hi, I'm Kim Ross, representing Eden Prairie Schools.
Shastra, Wayzata Public Schools.
Becky Mosqueda Jones, representing District 79, Osseo Area Schools.
Good evening, I'm Heidi Marty. I represent Wisconsin Public Schools.
Hello, I'm Karen Orcutt, representing Orono.
Hello, I'm Ruthie Dallas, representing Woodland Center Communities.
And Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park. And I'm Crystal Brackey from Richfield Public Schools. We have two board members who are not able to be with us this evening, Michael Birdman from Edina and Renee Bowman from Robbinsdale, but appreciate that fellow board member from Robbinsdale is with us this evening just to observe and be part of the meeting with us tonight in Renee's absence. With that, we move to approval of our general meeting agenda. There are no changes to the agenda before us this evening. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Next is open forum for community comments, and I don't believe we had anybody request time with the board this evening. Thank you, Annie. We move to approval of the consent agenda containing routine business items that we approve as a slate, unless there is an item that a board member would like removed for individual consideration. Don't see anyone making a motion to do so. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Kim Ross and a second by Ruthie Dallas. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. And we move to share the success and recognitions, such a great way to start all of our meetings. And this evening, I am excited to welcome Dr. Elizabeth Lamb to introduce our January 2024 Above and Beyond Winter. Come on up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dowd, board members, and colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity to present this Above and Beyond nomination to Sophie Chabin. Sophie is being recognized this evening for her outstanding dedication to personalized learning and evidence-based instruction. To frame this award recognition, I would like to begin with the why, because I believe in understanding the why, the drive, the commitment, the core values. That's when we get to the heart of the matter. And it's from the heart where Sophie's light shines so bright. So let's begin with District 287 core values: inclusion, integrity, trust, and authenticity. In Sophie's role, she serves as an orientation and mobility specialist across our member districts and 287 sites. Briefly described, her role gives students who are blind or low vision tools and skills to be able to increase their travel independence. As Sophie taught me early on, and I remember this conversation so well, she said, "Elizabeth, it's so much more than finding ways to travel. It's more than white canes. It's more than learning bus routes and finding strategies to cross the street. It goes deeper. What is the reason for travel?" And I had to pause. What is the reason for travel? As a sighted person, I had never thought of that before. What's the reason for travel? Hadn't crossed my mind. So she went on to explain, if you're blind or have not full access to the environment, you may not see objects and things you're attracted to. You may not see things you're interested in exploring. So it's beyond tools. It starts as the reason for travel. In her role as an orientation mobility specialist, she creates conditions where students find a reason for travel, a reason to leave a place that's familiar, that's predictable, and that's safe into a larger world. The reason for travel. Traveling into spaces you cannot visually see, or you cannot visually see well. Travel opens the doors. It intersects with, can I travel with my peers? Can I be with my class? Can I travel outside with my friends? It has to do with inclusion. Will someone be there for me? Does someone believe that I can? Has to do with integrity. Is it safe? Can I do this? Trust. Can I be me, all of me as I travel? Can I use a white cane? Can I travel in the way that I need to travel? Authenticity. Students' worlds become bigger. Their opportunities more. Their experiences are multiplied because they have a reason for travel. And then they learn tools to be able to travel. Sophie's role is critical in setting those conditions. In addition to her powerful work as an orientation mobility specialist, she also serves as a trusted teammate and mentor. She works closely with her partners, who are teachers of blind and low vision, and through multiple disciplinary teams, she works with many of our itinerant staff. She was described by staff as a team player. She's always there to answer questions, step in to help, make someone smile, be a thought partner and problem solve, think outside the box and find a solution. Sophie provides high levels of effort and thoroughness. She consistently goes the extra mile. Sophie is a wonderful mentor to the team and has an innate way of explaining difficult concepts and ideas, not just to her team, but also her students and to me. She builds relationships with students and their families and helps guide them through the educational system, and also the grieving process that comes with vision loss for some of our families. She is a fierce advocate for students. If you could see her work, it blows me away. And it is with such great pleasure that I was able to provide a glimpse, just a glimpse of the many gifts that she brings to our students, to our staff, and to our families. Congratulations, Sophie.
May I talk?
Yes, I was just gonna say, Sophie, it was fun trying to both watch Dr. Lamb and you as that beautiful, beautiful series of words was shared about your work. So please go ahead.
Well, Elizabeth, this was really nice because I didn't know what your speech was going to be. And I prepared a little speech, and it's incredible how a lot of this matches. And so it's a wonderful, I wanted to share about myself, and you shared, I guess I transfer my message as well, because I think you got a good sense of what was important for me. But I wanted, of course, to start by thanking everyone. This is very special. I was a little bit emotional when I received the paperwork, but maybe does it mean that I'm just part of the old people with experience category now? I don't know, but I was still very grateful. So thank you for that. So as I want to share a little bit more about my job, and Elizabeth really pretty much shared the same. And so I do work with students that are blind and who have low vision, and I do teach them how to use a cane. But my job is more than that. And that's what Elizabeth was saying. It's teaching them the world around them. It's teaching them how it works. It is teaching how to cross the street, but it's teaching him how to go to work, how to go to college, how to go to a coffee shop, how to go see your girlfriend or your boyfriend. And believe me, that's happened because I've had a student who did that and who's pregnant 9 months later. That's a little side note, but they know how to take the bus now. But it's teaching them to do what they want and when they want to do it. And that is so important. The thing that when I'm part of these teams, a lot of the time the focus is on the academic. Everyone is worried about academic. Parents are worried about academic, and the staff really are just focused about that. And people don't think how much travel is still important or is important. And that is something that often is realized much later, or in the last few years, people are like, oh, how are they going to go do this and do that? So that is something that's sometimes difficult in this field, because people don't realize how it's important to do this journey and learn about all these skills. And we don't think of it right from the beginning. So that was something important. So I am just one little Sophie servicing all these districts. There's just one orientation and mobility specialist, and I try and help support all the students that have those needs. So it is a challenging experience, but I love this. I want to share two other things. One is how I like to talk about my job and why I'm so passionate about this job, and a little bit Elizabeth found that right spot too. I describe it as like trying to find the wave that my parents and my students are surfing, and I try and catch that same wave, and then I try and surf the wave with them, and then we go on a journey together. And it has the ups and downs, and it's not easy to find the wave right away, but that is my way of describing how I do this job. And once I'm surfing with them, it's the most pleasurable experience, and it is a journey, and I love the journey. And I've had enough experience now that I've journeyed with some families for many, many years, and that is very rewarding to me on a personal level. And the last thing, and Elizabeth pointed to that too, I discovered this year with all the new team members that we have, that I really like mentoring, and I like teaching them what I know. And I realized that I knew a lot of things. I didn't know that, but I realized as I was, communicating with our new team members, and I've enjoyed that a lot. And so I like how they can let themselves be a little bit vulnerable and open up and share their weaknesses and be, Sophie, how can I help? Can you help? And I'm more than happy, and I love doing that. So that's been something that's been piquing my curiosity, maybe for future thoughts of how I can support staff and mentor, because it's something I'm realizing I enjoy a lot. So that's my little journey, and I would like to thank everyone for the recognition.
Thank you, Sophie.
Have a nice evening.
I'll pause and just see if there, she's gone. We will just celebrate her in her absence. I was so moved by the question of, it goes deeper, and how do you think about what those deeper layers are? So thank you for sharing that on her behalf, and the ways that she really pushes to think about her work and our collective work through that lens. Thank you. Any other comments or questions that people want to make? Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I will move next to the superintendent's report. So Superintendent Dowd, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to give an update on the local 209, which is our teachers, our licensed staff, and our paraprofessionals, we call them PSPs, contract. In my weekly newsletter, I shared with you that we had a tentative agreement, and the plan was to vote yesterday. I'm just giving you an update that we were finalizing the document, and the vote got delayed till March 19th. And so I wanted to let you know, so the union will vote on March 19th. And I'm asking that we could do a special board meeting, because we don't have a second board meeting in March. So it wouldn't be till April 11th. And we would like to get those payments out before the end of the school year. And so asking the board members, would you be available for a special board meeting Thursday, March 21st at 6:30? We could do a hybrid. The district office or this room will be open for in-person board meeting. If you choose to do a virtual option, we'll post it at that as that. We also would need to post your location. And your location needs to be accessible for any community member that wants to have questions with you during the board meeting. And so you could, if you are gonna do the virtual meeting from home, you would give your home address. If you would want to do it from a coffee shop or something like that, you could give that coffee shop's address. I asked that, first we do need a quorum, we do need a majority vote for the contract. And so if we could see if there'd be availability for March 21st, that would be great. And then we'll go ahead and I'll give you the next step of directions.
Did you say 6:30?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
March 21st at 6:30.
And so with our board now numbering 12, we will need 7 people to be able to attend either again in person or virtually. So can we just do a quick show of hands for the folks who are here? If you could do next Thursday, a week from today at 6:30 p.m. Okay, so I feel like that's quorum plus some, and we know that Michael and Renee may be able to make that time, so I feel like we should move forward with setting the special meeting. Again, I think for the reasons that the superintendent shared, really wanting to be able to put the financial changes into effect as soon as possible for our staff.
Chair,
Yeah.
Becky, am just wondering, are we thinking that's going to be the only agenda item? So it will be a relatively
Correct.
short.
Yep, and because it's a special meeting, that would not change. That will remain the only agenda item for the evening. So it will be very focused and it will be however much time the board members present need to ask any questions that they have about the tentative agreement, and then we would take the action to approve the contract as presented.
Thank you.
And so if you are going to come in person, you just need to show up. So we have a majority vote here. If you are going to attend virtually, I ask that you connect with Juanine after the board meeting and give the address in which you would be connecting virtually so that she can properly post it. Any questions about the process? We'll make sure all board members have the summary of the agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And appreciation to our partners at 2209 and all of the staff who have been involved in getting the tentative agreement in place, and look forward to being able to officially meet next Thursday. We move to the instructional report this evening, where Kiara Zachary, our Director of Equity and Inclusion, is going to share more information about the unit of study that I think we are so excited to hear more about. So come on up.
Good morning, school board members, board. Good morning, good evening, good evening. Good evening. It's been a long day. Good evening, Chair Brackey, Superintendent Dowd, and school board members. I am here to talk with you all about our student voice in policy work and another taste of equity in action at District 287. So student voice in policy is exactly what it sounds like. We were collecting student voice in our policy making, and this decision is supported by our equity audit that was conducted by Dr. Courtney Bell Duncan in June of 2023. And it supports 2 of those recommendations, one of which is policy revision and development and training for school board members to implement equity audit recommendations. That's one. And then the other one is the development of structures and practices to engage and amplify the voices of students, parents, and unlicensed staff in developing equitable solutions that best serve their needs. So what a great way to do 2 things at once by being able to address both of these recommendations within one action. This is small, but I'm going to tell you what this is. This is our equity decision making model. And those two highlighted regions talk about, one, we set an intended outcome, and that's really the outcome that is outlined in the purpose statement of any policy. The next two are identify key audiences based on who are going to be the impacted individuals by this decision or the outcome and who will be involved. And then the next one is to gather that data and evaluate it so that we can understand and mitigate any potential harm or understand the impacts of the decision for that population. And so we used these two steps in our equity decision-making model to determine that we do need student voice, in fact, within our policy-making decision. And as you all know, the student conduct bucket was our second bucket of policies that we reviewed. And so we didn't limit the choices that our students had in which policies they could provide feedback on because, well, they were impacted by all policies. And so what we did is we developed questions and we asked students a series of questions that you'll see how we did in order to gather that data and helped us inform some of our policy drafting decisions. So I crafted a unit of study. I used a social studies standard in our policy and government strand of social studies. And the standard is that students should examine a public policy issue by defining the problem, developing alternative courses of action, evaluating the consequences of each alternative, selecting a course of action, and designing a plan to implement the action and resolve the problem. Ooh, that's weighty, right? When we see that, we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different skills within one standard, right? And so the reason why this was a unit and not a lesson is because students, in order to fully address the policy, understand and be able to answer the questions that we pose to students, would need to actually engage in all 6 of those skills. They would need to do all 6 of those skills. And so the unit was 7 lessons in total, where they went through this entire process. Some of the activities were that the students did a jigsaw reading. So we broke up policies. They identified the problems that policies were trying to address, and they became experts in a section of the policy and then shared that knowledge with their peers. We used graphic organizers to help them organize and to put certain information in certain spaces so that they could process the information and then share what they knew. And also show and sort of break down some of those like very complicated texts. In order for them to evaluate consequences, we talked a lot about if-then logic. And we used fill in the blanks and sentence starters so that our students could think, if this happens, then what should happen next? We used an activity called conversations, where we posed questions to students. Students went around and they had mini conversations in order to select a course of action and then also help them design a plan. We used problem-solving circles. And then lastly, students drafted a summary sheet. So you'll look in your packet and you'll see we actually gave them a template, the same template that Superintendent Dowd uses in summarizing the changes of a policy and summarizing the policy. That was the student's final product. And so they went through all of these many steps, and you'll hear the students talk about the many steps in order for them to ultimately draft an executive summary of the changes that they would make to a policy. Some of the pedagogy that we used is group work, collective meeting making, partner reading, collaborative writing, and then circles for instruction. These are equity-based and culturally responsive pedagogical moves, right, that we intentionally provided to students so that while students handed in individual work, right, the group was making meaning together, and that they were considering implications of more than one policy at a time. Our students were very interested in a couple of policies in particular. Some of them they did not, in fact, provide any feedback on. And some of them, like the student records and data, that was, I think, a 23-page policy. Nobody touched that one. Very technical, very technical. But the ones that they were very interested in were student discipline and the level of accountability and safety that they wanted for themselves and their peers. They were really interested in student searches. They were interested in student meals and requested things like exotic fruits. We heard lots of things. And what can happen? There was a lot of things about, well, if this happens, then what would the consequence look like? What is just, what is fair? If this happens to a student, then staff respond in this way. What does it look like for students to hold staff accountable? And so again, being able to go through and understand that one, these policies are going to impact you on a day-to-day basis. We do have to meet this target, right? We have to resolve this problem together, and understand the impact not only for ourselves, but again for the collective. So that's just some of the highlights of the unit that the students went through. We had about 5 classrooms in the district that went through this unit. We had students at South Education Center, Ann Brammer Education Center, and our care and treatment facilities at 2 of our care and treatment schools that provided feedback again on a number of policies. And we've been using their student voice, using their summaries to inform our policy drafting through our ad hoc policy committee. So we have 2 students here, Jasmine Gonzalez and Renaya from South Education Center. They were unable to make it today, but we did have Rachel Prost, our communication specialist, go out to South Education Center and interview the students. I met with them and we prepared together, and they were shocked that this wasn't just some random assignment that their teacher made them do. But in fact, I read them, I asked them questions about their responses, and that like this went to the superintendent and we talked about it. And so I'll share with you this video and they'll tell you about their experience.
My name is Jasmine Gonzalez. I'm in 12th grade. I go to South Education Center, and the school I went to before here was Mitchell High School.
My name is Renaya. I'm in the 12th grade also. I go to Sika. School I came to before this, I was in District 279, which is Brooklyn Park in Nassau.
My policy paper was about metal detectors and how if you go through metal detectors and it doesn't go off, they don't need to go through your bag. But if it does go off, they have reason to go through your bag. Because if it doesn't go off and they go through your bag, you're like missing already 10 minutes of class because they're making you stop going through your bag. Then if it has a lot of zippers and stuff, it takes even more time.
My policy paper was about the searches. I don't want to say searches because I understand why our particular school does searches, but like what I mean by searches, I mean like, you know, sometimes people come from other places or have to take public transportation, and searches of that sort, like full body searches, you know, people could have certain things on them that weren't pertaining to be weapons for school, but weapons for outside of school. Obviously don't bring weapons to school, like that's an obvious thing, but like I said, you have kids that are, I should say young adults, because most of us are young adults, and you know, we're getting to that age where it's like you gotta start transporting yourself around, or you gotta start doing things by yourself. And you might have children that work overnight shifts but have to go to school, but have to take the bus to school, and they want to feel safe outside of school, as in like mace or tasers and stuff like that. So I feel like there should be like a check-in situation. Like if you do have it and you do happen to have to bring it to school, you should be able to like, hey, I have this, give them a reason on why you have it, can we check it in and check it out, like type situation outside of school. Well, check it in when you get to school and getting it back like outside of school. Instead of there being like a consequence of them finding it on you, and then it's like, oh, well, you have mace and we're gonna take it and there's gonna be a consequence, but you probably never even asked the student why they had it. It opened our eyes, like, first of all, we thought it was an assignment. Eric always gives us complicated assignments. So it's like we thought of just another 7-piece assignment that we had to do. But it did open our eyes a lot to see, like, we don't go to the policy and read the whole policy and be like, oh, this is in there, this is in there, this is in there. So for us to actually see it and be like, oh, this is really in there, and actually can have an opinion on it was pretty cool.
I like that because the assignment wasn't just based off because the assignments right now is basically about the 1890s and stuff. So now it's like something new and something realistic that we go through basically every day. So it was nice because it was an assignment that we can actually put our feelings to it because we were the ones going through it. Oh, and that they should have like more assignments about like things like this.
Yeah,
because
this should be something like, even though I told like Eric, like, here, this is an assignment, but like this should be something like other students should go through because everybody's school district is different, and I've been to a lot of schools, so it's just like not many people care. It's more of like a get work done, turn in, type situation. But it's just good to find a teacher that actually cares, and Eric actually cared about the assignment, and he actually like made the assignment an assignment for us to understand and for us to get it. And I just felt like that was really good.
I feel like when they do assignments, they should like say, "Oh, we're actually taking like
Yeah,
we're taking it serious." It's not just an assignment to get like credit. They want the voices to be.
But at the same time, you could tell us that, oh, you're taking this assignment serious, and half of us are not going to take it seriously.
Yeah.
To be fair, I did explain that this would be.
Yeah, he was like, this might go farther than what it is, but we're thinking it's just Eric. Like,
Okay, I'm just gonna read it.
Like,
Okay.
So what are our next steps? Weren't they great? They were good. I enjoyed talking with them. And they were like, every time I came back, they're like, and you're back. Like, yes, I'm back. And we're gonna keep doing this, and we hopefully will spread it, right? So we will keep it going. So the next steps are to continue to work with social studies teacher on refining the unit and getting feedback on annually reviewed student policies. The wonderful thing is that statute says there's some things that we have to do every single year, and we will have students every single year, and they can continue to give us that feedback. And then we can also leverage our student equity teams and our student councils to do the same work. One of the reasons why I wanted to do it in sort of this unit of study is obviously so that our students could get credit as compensation for their voices, because they're giving us things to think about, but also as sort of like a little bit of leverage, right? Like Eric, right? Great teacher Eric made them do this complicated assignment, but then they were like, oh, this is real. Now this is relevant. Now my voice will be heard. I have an opportunity to really reflect on what I'm being held accountable to, the standards that I'm being held accountable to. And so we have other, students and student leaders that I think, can have the same opportunity. And so our next steps will be to expand and provide that opportunity in as many spaces as we can as we continue to develop policy. You have any questions for me?
Questions or comments about this is just the coolest thing ever. I mean, let's just be real.
Coolest thing ever, in case the mic didn't pick that up. Jenna, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is amazing and terrific. And I really appreciate that you folded it into the curriculum and the standards. Because you're absolutely right. So often we ask students to just give us their opinions and their thoughts and their time and their talents without giving them anything in return. And for this, they're getting credit, as well as their voice is now incorporated in policies that directly impact them every day. This is an amazing model, and I would like to see it go further than just 287, because one of the things that I know we struggle with at Hopkins is how to get a wide representation of our student body, because often you see the same students showing up to have their voices heard. So this is just an amazing, innovative, and very inspiring model for incorporating student voice into board work. So thank you.
So I'll share something I shared with the ad hoc policy committee. At our board meeting in Eden Prairie on Monday, we were having a conversation at our workshop about a potential new policy. And the policy had been drafted by one of our board subcommittees and so forth. And I asked the question, where's the voice of the students and how is it incorporated into this policy, or the voice of the staff? And one of my colleagues said, well, how would we do that? I'm like, oh, we are doing it in 287. And now, thanks to your presentation, Kiara, at our next board meeting, I can share a little bit more about how.
Yes,
So
yes,
I
yes.
appreciate that. Appreciate
Of
the work.
course. Yeah, of course. This is where, you know, like my social justice educator gets to vibe, and that I got to go get back in the classroom and put my teacher hat on for a little bit. So I really appreciate it. I had fun. And the students were wonderful to get to talk to them, like listen to their perspectives. And to think about what it is that it means for them to have to go through certain things. Everything from like, I would eat more food if we had bigger portions and exotic fruit, to, you know, like, what are the consequences of, what are real life consequences to me carrying mace for safety and then having to give that up? And does this mean that if I'm honest about it, right, that I'll receive the same consequence as someone who intends to be harmful? And so I to have that dialogue, clearly our policy states students cannot carry weapons and we cannot give them back, right? But to have that dialogue and to have them really understand that was really powerful and important. So thank you all for the opportunity.
I love how you're just trying to get out of the microphone.
Oh, okay. Here, I'm still here.
Anybody else? I just, thank you. I think all of the things that have already been said, about the credit aspect of this and sort of like the weight that carries. But I also just wanted to appreciate, I think, the power of relationships that come through in that video. Really, really clearly, in a way that I think is very special. And so to you, to Eric, to Rachel for capturing the video, I just think that was a really special window into how this has actually played out, in this one classroom at South in particular. Thank you.
And I'm glad you're continuing with this. You're gonna keep it going.
Yes. The staff have the unit for as long as they want it. So it's open to everybody at 287. I think that's what it is. They can use it.
Okay, now I'll stop giving you a hard time and you can go.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. We move next to our Business Services and Labor Relations Report, which this evening contains one item, fiscal year 25 budget assumptions and a program withdrawal report that we will be asked to approve, presented by Brian Schultz, our Executive Director of Business Services and Operations.
All right, thank you, Chair Brackey, Superintendent Dowd, board members. So tonight we're here to start our formal process with the board of approving next year's, the fiscal 2024-25 district budget. So it's the formal process with the board, but as a district, we've been working on it for months already, right? You end one budget cycle, start working on the current year, and then you start another one in the planning for it. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of players. We have a great team here and we've been working a lot of additional meetings, just trying to get in line for what fiscal 25 is going to look like. And tonight is really just about proving those budget assumptions that go into building the revenues and expenditures for their overall budget for the district. The first item on the assumption report you have in your packet is around program withdrawals from member districts. Each year we do send out a notification form to our member districts to inquire if they do plan to withdraw, reduce programs, et cetera, with the district. This is something we are required to do annually, and it's part of our budget assumption process. And we're happy to report that there are no requests or communications to withdraw. So we will have the same member districts going in fiscal 25. So overall, budget assumptions are divided really into two categories, revenue and expenditures. So I'll just go over some of the key, I'm not going to go through each item within the assumptions, just some of the key items within each of them. So under the revenues, right, enrollment, similar to traditional K-12 schools, is just as important for intermediate districts. How we plan for it is just a bit different, right? We work with our member districts to determine what students that they're looking to refer to District 287 for the programs that we provide, which is a little bit different than traditional districts where you look at your current cohorts of students and progress a grade, look at some of the ratios, look at births coming in, some of your early learning programs. But it's still a vital component as our revenue is generated and the staffing that we do is built on the enrollment that we project. But again, projections are difficult, even for both traditional and intermediates. Here, right, we don't want to be too conservative as we will understaff our programs. And if our member districts have referrals during the school year, they can end up having wait lists and so forth, which they have voiced. We don't want that to happen. It has happened in other intermediates, and I've been in one of them in West St. Paul. And it is frustrating when you're waiting to get students into programs that they really need, and they wait for months or a year. And so I've heard for our district that they're very happy that we do not have that. And so that's where we don't want to be too conservative in our estimates, but we don't want to be too aggressive either, as you'll overstaff. Tuition billing ratios will go a little too high, and it'll just cost more than what we wanted for our member districts. So it's a balancing act, but we work closely with our special ed team, who works closely with our member districts and their special ed directors to project that enrollment going into fiscal 25, the next school year. At this point, we are looking at projected enrollment for our Setting 4 programs at 544 ADMs for next year. That is 52 higher than our projection for this school year, and it's 56 higher than what our January enrollment report showed that the board saw in January. So overall, very positive from an enrollment standpoint going into fiscal 25. The projected enrollment for ALC programs is projected to go up slightly as well. Right now, we're estimating about a 15 student increase. So that's good. We would like to see maybe a little more. I think that I'm hoping it's a little conservative. We're trying to be a little more conservative on that side, as it's more of a general ed driven program and formula allowance. So hopefully that'll even come in a bit better than projections. So in summary, on the revenue side, the revenue assumptions state that we're going to be using our member planning information around enrollment with the state approved funding rates to calculate our program revenues. And then we will also be calculating existing member district approved fees. So our member fee and our ALC fee as well, but there are no changes in those rates going into next year. And those will help to determine the revenues for each of the services provided by the district. We will also continue to advocate for ongoing funding for intermediate districts and for strategic priorities in the current legislative session as well as future legislative sessions. That's another one of those never-ending processes where we continue to advocate for our districts and our students. Moving on to expenditures. The key one for me anyway, and I think for the district is, we center our resources and align them to our strategic plan, which, as we state here, is achieving academic success, cultivating equity and inclusion, and promoting social and emotional learning. So we always keep that at the forefront of our budget planning as a team and as a district. And then expenditure budgets will be aligned with revenue budgets, and budget adjustments may be necessary depending on where overall projections come in with the revenues. Tiers budgeting and tuition billing ratios the tiered budgeting and tuition billing ratios that were approved by our special ed advisory council and the 287 school board, that was a few years back in 2019, will be used to build the allocations and ratios for staffing at our sites. Which plays into our biggest expenditure of our budget, which is our staffing, right? Staffing makes up approximately 85% of our district budget. So knowing that enrollment and the ratios that we use to staff our buildings generates and decides a majority of the expenditures for our budget. We'll continue recruitment and retention initiatives in the district. Staffing will be aligned to those tiered ratios that will build the staffing at our sites. Staffing for other programs and departments will align to the revenues generated for other through general ed and through our member fees. And then projected expenditures for staffing will be based on the either settled contracts, if our groups are settled for fiscal 25, or they'll be based on board parameters for those expenditures in those groups. And finally, the budget will be developed within the parameters of the fund balance policy, which is that 6 to 8%. And currently we're at about 6.6 when we reported the audit back in January. So we'll stay within the fund balance policy. And again, these were just a few of the highlights of the budget assumptions. You have the full list in your board packet. Tonight, we're just looking for approval of those budget assumptions to start the formal process. And then we'll come back at future meetings and then again in June for that final budget approval. And then I will open it up for any questions from the board.
Thank you, Brian. Other questions or comments?
All the assumptions look very clear and reasonable.
Thank you. Multiple nods around it.
Yeah.
It's encouraging that we don't have any district choosing to withdraw from our program. That was a good sign. And
Mhm.
with that, I'm sure our financial position definitely improves. I'm very glad to hear that.
Comments or questions? Okay. Being done, we could entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 budget assumptions and program I can't say that word tonight. Withdrawal report. So, thank you. We have a motion by Ann Casey and a second by Dan Ginestra. I'm gonna give it to you, Dan. Any final discussion? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the report is approved. Thank you. We move to our board business section of the agenda. We're going to come back to the policy space for a few items, which is exciting given the student work that we just saw and heard more about. So first up is board policy 520 on student survey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the second reading of policy 220 student surveys. There were no changes after the first reading. So I would recommend approval.
Any new comments or questions at this point? I don't see any. So is there a motion to approve board policy 520? Is there a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion by Mike Revachol and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the student surveys policy is approved.
All right, the next policy is policy 521, student discipline and non-discrimination form reporting. The discussion was around some of the language used is really from federal law. And we wanted to acknowledge isn't the language that we typically use in District 287. So the green language is the added, just identifying that this language and terms used in this policy are directly from federal law. And then also under 2C, specifically identifying under section 504 criteria that this is not our language, but federal law language. So the only changes recommended. And from here, I'd recommend to approve policy.
Thank you for making those changes coming out of our last meeting. Any additional comments or questions about policy 521?
Just a point of clarification. The policy that we're voting on is policy 521, student disability non-discrimination.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by, that was you, Jackie, right? Jackie Mosqueda Jones. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the student disability non-discrimination policy is approved.
Okay, the next policy is second reading of policy 531, Pledge of Allegiance. There were no changes recommended after the first reading. I ask that it be approved.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions on this one? Is there a motion to approve Pledge of Allegiance policy? Second. We have a motion by Dan Ginestra and a second by Kim Ross. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and policy 531 is approved. And last but not least,
All right, thank you. This is the second reading of policy 534, school meals policy. Under purpose, we identified just making sure that there's no public lunch shaming for anybody that is deficit, that it's not to the students. We go to the adults. Also under section 2, payment of meals, talking about the free meals is 1 breakfast and 1 lunch per student, just being clear on that. And then as you go through section 3, identifying students 18 years of age will under 18 years of age will not be notified. Just again addressing that students should be notified of their any kind of deficit, and so clear language around that. And those are the changes that we discussed, and I recommend it move forward for approval.
thank you. Final comments or questions? Oh, Ruthie made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Ruthie Dallas, a second by Shannon Anderson. Comments or questions?
I just really wish we'd be able to work in that exotic fruit.
Pass that on.
I agree. You might just have to do a classroom. Kiara and I can show up with some exotic. fruit.
The policy doesn't prohibit.
It does not prohibit exotic fruit. Anyone who's listening that wants to donate some exotic fruit.
That's exactly-
We just want to know that students know we heard them.
Yeah.
And exotic fruit handling policy, but it certainly came on practice.
I honestly am like now tempted to drop off some exotic. Any other comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the student meals policy is approved. Thank you to the superintendent, the district team, everybody involved in the policy ad hoc committee for your work in getting these 4 policies to completion. And of course, special shout out to our students and teachers who participate in the process. Just a couple additional things from board reports and district news and updates. The AMSD report, the one thing I would share is at the last AMSD board meeting, it was sort of a deeper conversation about the READ Act and what is currently underway with the READ Act that was passed last session and some of the things that are being considered for the READ Act Part 2, if you will, this session. And the speakers were Representative Edelson, Senator Duckworth, and Assistant Commissioner Bobby Burnham from the Minnesota Department of Education. So if the READ Act is a particular passion of yours or something that you're spending a lot of time talking about, I just encourage you to check out the recording from that last AMSD board meeting. Just a few calendar items before we move to what's around the table. As we discussed just a little bit ago, we are going to have a special meeting now next Thursday, the 21st at 6:30 p.m. So please talk with Juanine at the end of the meeting tonight if you are going to be a virtual participant so that she can get your address for the public posting as required by statute. And then our next regular board meeting will be on Thursday, April 11th at 6:30 p.m. here in the board. So those were just the 2 dates of the next 2 events that we have coming up. I wanted to make sure it was on everybody's calendars. With that, we will move to what's around the table, which is the time for board members to share information or updates with one another. Is there anything that anyone would like to share this evening? Dan.
Well, this was an important update was that we have a new executive director of finance and operations, Mr. Scott Sage. We're very happy for him. He was our director of finance in operations just prior to that, succeeding, our, prior, employee. Karen, who's been with us for a few years, we're very grateful there for her service, and, we're excited to welcome Scott aboard. We'll know he'll do very, very well. So, that's my,
Thank you for sharing and congratulations.
I'll say
Go
we-
ahead.
we- people were expecting news after last night. We had an interruption to our board meeting, due to a medical emergency. The person's okay. But we had to stop our board meeting, during our deliberations. So we're gonna meet again on Monday for our final meeting for our superintendent search.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will also share that we too have a new Director of Business Services, Andrew Adams, who comes to us from the St. Paul Public School District.
Lots of changes in the business services world.
I just have an interesting update, and it's somewhat personal, but also pertains to the district. I learned that, so my child who attends Hopkins High School is taking a new language, ASL. And he and his classmates and people registering for ASL at Hopkins High School are being taught by a native speaker and learning about the deaf and hard of hearing culture as part of that class, which I think is amazing. And I'm so grateful that that opportunity it has been made available to those students. So very excited.
Anything else board members would like to share with each other? Okay, not seeing anything else, we can move to our final item on the agenda, which is to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn this evening? I am waiting for somebody to second.
Third.
It's like she's never had it. Second by Kim Ross. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and we are adjourned exactly at 7:30 PM. Have a good night.
I just thought you didn't hear me.